Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Your Pleasure Incorporated Daily. I'm your host, Ellen Nicholas Rathbone, sensuality consultant for many, many years, and author of a wonderful bestseller, Loving Sex, Every Woman's Guide to Sensual Sexuality. I hope you visit me every single week because every single week I want to elevate the conversation about ourselves as sensual, sexual beings. It's true, we are compelled to have sex because it is a drive, it is a need, and without it, we would not procreate. But just like any other need, we can cultivate it, we can understand it, we can control it, we can improve with it, and if it is understood, all that happens. And if it is not understood, it could be the bane of our lives. So it's any need, including eating. If you eat too much, it can kill you. If you're not responsible for the things that you eat and you act irresponsibly, it can kill you. It's the same thing with your sex life. It could be the most wonderful, exciting journey, full of pleasure, orgasm, intensity, and connection, or it can be a source of great pain and frustration and angst and worry and even anger. So today I want to talk about some of the fun toys that we can use as adults in our sexual playtime, which we call foreplay. Now, I don't want anybody to get upset about using toys because toys are just an enhancement to what the two want to create. So you can both be naked and both be kissing and hugging, but sometimes it's fun to have other kinds of stimulation. And you're not replacing anybody, you're just adding a little salt and pepper to the meal. So I want to talk about several different kinds of toys and how they fit in with stimulating the senses, because that is what our sex lives are. It's the five senses coming together in a delightful union and ability to create an atmosphere for relaxation and then heightened intense energy. And in doing that, the human body has a phenomenal thing called an orgasm. So we are able to do that consciously because we are creative, sexual beings. And when you add creativity to the basic act of sex, it makes it so much more fun, especially when you're in a committed relationship and you've been with the same person for years or even months and months and months. Sometimes it's just fun to add a little extra something. So the first toy that I want to show is a satin blindfold. Now, a satin blindfold is such a simple idea, but it is one of the most powerful tools because when you limit sight, all the other senses take up and increase in sensitivity because you've erased one of the most important senses that we rely on for interpreting the world, which is our sense of sight. So when you cannot see what is going to happen next, you cannot anticipate what is going to happen next. And so all the touches are surprises, and all the touches are a little bit more intense since the skin is sensitized by the fact that the eyes cannot see and interpret what's supposed to be happening, where it's supposed to be happening, etc. So this is a very, very powerful tool. Now, the trick with this is that it's mostly powerful when used on women because women are not as motivated to be turned on by sight. Mostly it is about sound and touch that is exciting to women. But men are more visual. They appreciate and can get an erection very easily just seeing a naked woman. But if a woman sees a naked man, it's not like she's going to get all hot and bothered. So sight for us is it's good, it's important, but it's not as important as it is for men. So when you limit a woman's sight, it is mostly a psychological way of helping her get excited because she can't see what's coming next. So this is a very, very powerful tool when used on a woman. And you could actually leave something like this on her eyes for 15 minutes, half an hour. It doesn't matter because she does not need to see the object of her desire to come. In fact, sometimes it's better not to see the object of your desire. Let your imagination take over. And that's what makes sex an adventure, that there is imagination and that there is creativity behind it. So a blindfold, very, very powerful for helping to excite a woman. Now, you can also use a blindfold on a guy, but there's a certain rule that goes with it. And that is you cannot leave it on him for more than 10 minutes. 10 minutes is, you're pushing it with 10 minutes. I would say 5 to 10, okay? And the reason I say that is because men are very visually stimulated and they need to see the object of their desire. They need to see the titties. They need to see the ass. They love to look at a vagina. And if that is in front of them, then their dick will get hard and they will be happy. But if you cover their eyes and they can't see, and all they know is that there's somebody kind of poking around, even the most enlightened male will become a little defensive behind that. Okay. So it's not that you can't use a blindfold on a guy, but 5 to 10 minutes max, and then take it off. And if you're a smart woman, while he's blindfolded, get the upper hand in whatever else that you'd like to do. You could tie him down. That would be nice. But enjoy it for all it's worth because he is in a non-dominant state when he has a blindfold on. It's your time to shine. The next toy that can be used on male or female is a soft flogger. Now, this is not a cat of nine tails. I know a lot of people will look at that and say, ooh, so kinky. But no, this is buttery soft leather. Very, very soft. It's the kind of softness that can be used on super sensitive areas. It could be used on tits. It can be used on coochie. It can be used on butt. It can be used any place because it's very, very soft. It's not stiff, hard leather that leaves welts. It's very, very soft. So even though you can apply a little sting with this, just a tiny bit, it's not going to leave any kind of a mark. It's just to wake up whatever area of the body you're using it on. But it's also a psychological toy because when you're showing something like this to someone and you're planning on stimulating different parts, they don't know what it's going to feel like, and the anticipation can kill somebody. It's just phenomenal. So even if you're not necessarily smacking or hitting somebody with this, that doesn't mean you can't trail it over their body and use it as a psychological toy to stimulate the imagination and to stimulate the anticipation and the excitement of, quote, what's to come. So this can be used on males or females. Whoever is feeling a little frisky can use it on the other, or maybe you guys can take turns. That would be nice. That'd be very nice. Just remember that if you're feeling angry at your partner that day, don't use this. This is not meant to punish anyone. This is a psychological toy, and it is used for pleasure exclusively. And if you start using your toys to hurt somebody because you're pissed off at them, then you have lost uh, the whole idea behind pleasure when you're substituting revenge. Okay? So don't do that to your sex life, and don't do that to your toys, and don't do that to your partner, and don't do that to yourselves, because it's just not healthy. It is a toy. It's a phenomenal toy. It works really well if you use it right. The next item is a very interesting one, and I like it because I'm not really much into permanent markings on my body. I know a lot of people like tattoos and they like piercings and that sort of thing. To each his own, okay? But when it comes to piercings, I'm not so sure that it isn't deadening something. You're making holes in the skin and you are killing nerve endings along the way. So, how can that be good for the nerve endings? And I like my nerve endings. I like them to work really, really well for me. So, that's why the only piercings I have are right in my earlobes. But to each his own. But I can appreciate the intensity of blood held in an extremity. And that is what these are. This is non piercing nipple jewelry. Can you see? So at either end of this jewelry is little lasso. And each lasso goes around a nipple. So we'll pretend that this is a nipple because this show is rated R, not X. And we'll put it around. And then we squeeze the lasso just tight enough so that it won't fall off the finger. We're not trying to cut off circulation. We're just putting it on snugly. There's a little bit, very little of a indent to the skin. Would be the same thing if this was around a nipple. Now, you can try this as an experiment at home. Get a lasso if you have one, and then just touch your fingertip. You will notice that the fingertip where the blood is being held in the end is considerably more sensitive than the other one. And that's exactly what happens to nipples. The blood is held in them. And so any other stimulation, rubs, touches, kisses, etc., that are done with these in place is all the more intense and very, very exciting. It's just something different, and it's not anything permanent, which I like. I don't want everything I've ever done sexually to be, a mark left behind on my body. And this is a quick and easy, non-piercing nipple jewelry. Now I'm going to go into a subject that for many people is kind of weird because, a lot of people are very uptight about it, and it is the anus. Now, the anus is not like a vagina, other than the fact that it's, a hole. But the anus is a very vacuous organ, and men and women have anus. And it does lubricate some, but it doesn't lubricate a lot. It certainly does not lubricate enough to do any kind of serious thrusting action unless there is a lot of lubrication being used and the entire area has been prepped for that kind of penetration. Usually, it's not that kind of penetration. Now, for men, inside the anus is his prostate. It's up along the rectal wall. And so to stimulate the prostate, there's a couple of different ways to do that. One is to tickle up gently on the perineum, which is the flat piece of skin between the testicles and the anus. If you tickle up on that, you're indirectly stimulating the prostate, which is just above it. But if you want to go for the gusto, And you don't necessarily want to put your fingers in his butt. You love him, but you're drawing the line with the fingers in his butt. That is where these next couple of toys are incredible. So the first one is anal love beads. See, there's 5 beads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And next to each bead is a little knot to keep the beads from all bunching up at one end. All right. And then at the end, there's a knot. And then at the end, there's a ring. Any toy that's going inside the butt, whether it's going to be left there for a little while or whether it's going to be played with immediately, has to have either a flared bottom or a ring at the end, or it can get lost, because that's another difference between anus and vagina. Vagina pushes everything out and anus sucks everything in. One of my friends once suggested that since the anus sucked up so nicely, maybe we should use it to vacuum the rug. But I don't think it would work very well for that. I don't know. So this is a phenomenal tool, but there are a couple of understandings that go with it. Number one, this is not something that is the first thing one does in foreplay. A person has to be, a man or a woman, if you're using this on a woman, has to be at the point where they are breathing heavily. When a person is breathing heavily, a lot through their mouth, because they can't get enough air in through their nose to keep everything going. When that mouth is open, all the orifices on their body are open. And that would be the time that it is best to introduce anal love beads. Okay, so that's a rule of thumb. Mouth open breathing, everything else is open. Okay. The second thing is that because the anus is not an area that makes a whole lot of lubrication, lots of lubrication is needed on these. So if you try to put them in without lubrication, it will be painful, it will be uncomfortable, it will not be fun, and your party time will be over, okay? If you're going to do it right. Put some lubrication. Now, I like the hybrid gel. It's a silicone and water-based lubricant, so that means it lasts a long time and it's extra thick. I also like, for anal play, Anal Ease. It has a cherry flavor if you were going to be tasting in the area, but the bottom line is it has a desensitizing sensation so that the area is not as, doesn't feel everything as much. I don't know if that's necessary, because if a person thinks that the area is desensitized, they might just go, full gusto and end up hurting somebody. So always treat the anus with respect, gentleness, and remember that even though you're using anal beads, these are considerably smaller than what comes out of there. So this is not going to be an attack. This is not like a large penis being shoved up there. These are small beads that, when they are placed at the opening, and we'll just pretend that my finger here is the opening. So they just get put to the opening and give up a gentle push, not a shove, nothing like that, just to the opening and a gentle push. And because the anus is vacuous, it will suck them up. And so it doesn't take very much effort to get them all in there. So now they're all in there and the string is out. And just when he is ready to have his orgasm and you want to give him a double header, like a clitoral vaginal orgasm is a double header for a woman, well, penis prostate, that's a double header for a guy. So when he's just about to come, or when he is in the middle of his orgasm, you reach around and very slowly pull them out. And as you're pulling them out, each one will rub up against the prostate, which will increase the intensity of his orgasm tenfold. Do not pretend that you are starting a lawnmower. You are not there to hurt him. You are there to bring him to a phenomenal level of pleasure. And if you do the anal love beads properly, put them in when he's very, very excited. Make sure they're very lubricated. Just pop them in gently. The prostate is 1.5 inches up along the rectal wall. Much like in the vagina, the G spot is 1.5 inches up along the vaginal wall. We have a lot of similarities, except women's plumbing is a little bit more complicated than the guys. So we both have an area, strangely enough, that creates a phenomenal double header orgasm and potential multi-orgasm. For men, it is the prostate that is the gland that the sexual energy goes through again and again and again for his multiple orgasm. Of course, as soon as he ejaculates, which lets go of all the tension, then the orgasm for him is over. But women, well, they can keep going. So, men can keep going too, but most guys are just in the habit of exploding the ejaculate, and then that lets the sexual tension down. So if you can learn how to control that, and there are phenomenal books on the subject, more power to you, because that's what it's all about. That's the kind of control every man should have. Anyway, so anal love beads, great fun. And if you look at the package, it's a very simple little package. These are like $7, $8. It's not a big deal. You'll even see that even though, see, it's a guy. This is about the guy. A lot of times when I show these at the parties, women were like, "Oh, I'm not going to do that." No, I said it's for him, and they're like, "Oh, okay." so, so there are some guys that admit that they do enjoy that. Now, the anal love beads are the original idea, all right? And then, of course, you give an idea over to the lands of erotica, and they come up with a whole bunch of new and improved versions of it. And some of them are actually new and improved. And here is one that most definitely is new and improved. It's called Booty Beads, and it's actually called Bootylicious. It's silicone booty beads. And this is so incredibly soft. Each one of them is like skin. So there's no seams, no roughness, no, my goodness. And as long as you are evacuated and these are lubricated, and again, with this, I would actually put a little foreplay sensual succulent, because it has staying power and it has a little heat, which is relaxing in its own way. They start small, as you can see, and they get bigger. But even bigger, the biggest is not as big as what that area can accommodate during an evacuation. So don't get afraid of these. This is not a huge penis jamming itself up inside of you. It is a graduation of the size so that it is gently, gently, gently stretching you out. And if they're covered with lube, and if you're relaxed, and if you're breathing deeply, in through the nose, out through the mouth, in through the nose, out through the mouth, it's really quite intense. And then when they're pulled out very slowly, they are also very intense in how they feel. Now, this can be used on women, of course, but they're also something that a man can have used on him. And I think because he has his prostate along his anal wall, that he would probably like that stimulation more than she would. Now, guys have got to get over their homophobia. The church did that to you. It made you think that there's something homosexual about your prostate. Your prostate is an area of multiple orgasm. And just think about it. The guys that made the rules, they weren't getting any. And so they wanted to make sure you weren't going to get any good stuff either. So, let's shame everything about our sexuality and our bodies. Anyway, the prostate is a phenomenal organ. And with the right kind of rubbing, it can produce phenomenal, intense, satisfying multi orgasms for men. And this is a phenomenal tool that helps him get there. So now I want to take your attention to a toy that is used both by males for females, but it's also helpful to him. Now, you don't find these around very much anymore, but if you ever do, this is called a magic carpet. Okay. Now, it's also called the French touille, and that's what I've been calling it for years, which literally means a French tool. But the Americans call it a magic carpet. And if you can see up close, on one end, over here, it has a clef, and over here, it has a little tail that sticks out further than the rest of the nubs. So now the flat part is placed up against his body and his penis goes through there. So we'll pretend like that, okay? Now, when he is first using this, the clef should be up. And when he goes in, it's a bump and grind motion. And that bump and grind motion is against her pubis, her Venus mons, and opening up the lips that surround the clitoris. It is super, super, very important to use a lubricant with this toy. You cannot use this toy without a lubricant because if you attempt to do that, it will be so incredibly uncomfortable. But if you've got a lubricant on there and you've slathered it all over the bumps, all over those little nubs, slide yourself in here. Look, it stretches to accommodate. And yet, because it is a little on the small side, not super small. I mean, it'll fit small, medium, large, even extra large. And it does stretch. It actually works as a cock ring too. So a cock ring is worn at the base of the penis and helps to keep him hard through whatever's going on, especially if he's had a couple of drinks and maybe would lose it. He'd lose his hardness after a while. With a cock ring holding him at the base, it will help him to stay hard longer. So now this is really a toy that is meant for guys who don't have a whole lot of girth. I mean, girth is much more important than length. I don't know if everybody realizes that, but it's the girth that rubs the clitoris when you're in a face-to-face position. So what happens is when he's inside and you're doing this bump and grind back and forth like this, these soft nubbies are stimulate the pubic area, and this little clef here is going back and forth, and it's rubbing the clitoris, and it's really quite nice. Now, they call it the clitoris because in Greek, klini means to close, and that's exactly what the clitoris does. When it's really, really excited, it backs up. Like, oh, no, 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 don't do that anymore. I can't take it. That's when the skilled lover turns the touille around. Still, the nubs are facing out towards her pubis, but now the tail is in there. The tail extends a little further than the cleft did, and it'll hit the head of the clitoris directly. So once again, back into a bump and grind position, but this time that little tail is going straight past the labia and right to the head of the clitoris. So the more you just kind of move back and forth, up and down, the more stimulation the clitoris gets. This is a phenomenal toy. It is excellent for helping to retain hardness. If a guy does not have a lot of girth, it adds a lot to what he's bringing to the table. It is extremely stimulating for the female, and it gives the guy a lot of control. I like this toy. It's been around for centuries. You can still find them everywhere. So French toy, and when you're not using it as a sex toy, you can also use it as a soap dish. See, it just really works well as a soap dish as well. So that's that one. One of my favorite toys is the adjustable leather cock ring. So here it is. And it fits penis sizes of small, medium, large, and horse. I mean, extra large. Seriously, guys, if you have a penis that wide, you're dangerous, and you need to proceed with caution because you could seriously hurt somebody. Okay. But what a cock ring basically is used for is to hold the blood in the penis so that he maintains the integrity of his erection. Now, for young guys around, say, 20, between 19 and, say, 27, 28, it's not so much of an issue. Unless they've had a lot to drink. At that point, they could just go limp. But usually after 28, 29, 30s, and really depending on the diet, how healthy he is, sometimes it's hard to hold onto an erection. And this is something that once you have your erection, it will help you to hold onto it considerably longer. It is also an excellent tool for helping you to hold back from having orgasm too quickly. So now if you're going to put it at the base of the penis, I like it because it's adjustable and you could figure out what size is your size. It should fit you snugly. It should not be cutting off circulation. It should not hurt in any way, shape, or form. It should just fit snugly at the very base of the penis. So I like the fact that it has sizes and that when the time comes for you to take it off, it's just a pull and it's off, as opposed to have to, pull it all the way down and, maybe rub the wrong way. So this has got a lot of benefits to it. Now, the other thing that makes this such a phenomenal little simple idea, but great, is that you can put this at the top of the sac. The testicles are beneath it and the scrotum is here. So pretend that's the testicles down there and they're in the scrotum, which is at the top there. So, all right. So there it is. There it is. Okay. So here's testicles and here's the sac around them. And here's where the ring is. Now, when this ring is at the top of that sac, when a man is going to have his orgasm, his testicles always rise up and they have to be right up against the bottom of his body to have enough heat to generate his orgasm. This actually keeps the testicles away so that he doesn't attain that heat and thus his orgasm is postponed. And so for a guy who has a little difficulty with holding back, this is a simple and yet very effective tool to help that happen. Great, great tool. Last but certainly not least, I want to just quickly go over Benoit balls. I could do a whole show on Benoit balls because I absolutely love them. Benoits were invented by the ancient Chinese. They are two gold-plated stainless steel balls that are placed inside the vagina about 1.5 inches up. A woman does Kegel exercises while standing vertically. If she does 5 minutes, she's done a phenomenal exercise because she's used weights doing an isometric exercise for her pelvic floor. If she wants to have an orgasm with them, she squeezes around them for about 15 minutes and must be upright, squeezing around them. And at one point, you build enough tension that causes the G-spot to explode. Now, the directions are pretty simple, and I include directions with every set of Benoits that I sell. But Benoit's, I want you to know, were originally brought to the United States by Benoit United. And they're a company out in California that brought the original ones here. But I tell you right now, I would never buy Benoit's from Benoit United. And I'll tell you why. Because their directions are bullshit. Okay? They actually send directions that are bullshit. And I want to tell you which of their directions are bullshit. Because if you decide to not listen to me and get this model, don't follow these directions. Get them from me. I'll include my directions. So they say, how do they work? And they say you insert them inside your vagina and squeeze the vaginal muscles to keep the balls in. And then it says, don't worry, they won't get lost. That's true. Start by laying down flat. Okay. Never, never lay down flat to put them in. Let's be clear. That's ridiculous. And if you're a first-time user, will freak you out after you've done that. Okay, so don't do that. And then it says inserting them and squeeze for 4 seconds and relax for 4 seconds. Well, that's okay. That's one technique. Fluttering is better where you squeeze, relax, squeeze, relax, squeeze, relax. But if you want to do 4-second holds, I guess that's okay. Work up to doing 10 times. That's one set. Do 3 sets a day. So they're saying that essentially you do 30 of these, and that's fine. That's not fine. That's nothing. If you're going to use these, it's for about 5 minutes. 5 minutes is about 300 Kegels. I don't know what they think they're going to get done with 3 sets of 10, but this is not a bicep. This is the pelvic floor, and it needs a whole hell of a lot more than what these people are prescribing. And then it says you will notice the difference after a while. Eventually, you'll be able to do this while doing your housework or even while having intercourse. I've never heard anything so freaking ridiculous in my life. If you do not concentrate on keeping the Benoit balls in, those bad boys are going to fall out. And I don't care if you're doing housework or running errands, they're going to fall out and you're going to lose your balls someplace. So that's number one. Ridiculous that they would even say that. What kind of crap is that? And then, while having intercourse, I've never heard anything so stupid in my life. Are they suggesting that while she has them in, he bangs her and so bangs them up to the top of her vagina around her cervix, which has pockets on either side? You could actually jam these up there. The reason I'm making this point is because Benoit balls are considered a novelty. And in this country, there are no hard and fast rules for protecting people from stupid, messed up, ridiculous directions that come with the novelties. And that is why I am here today. One of the many reasons I am here is to give you an understanding of what these things are, what they do, what they don't do, how you should use them. And I hope that you enjoyed this presentation. And if you did, please like and subscribe, because I will be back every single week, either with a guest or just on my own, to give you another bit of your pleasure incorporated daily. And I really, really think that if you think about it, sex is the most beautiful experience of our lives. It can be dangerous, can be beautiful. The more knowledge that you know, the more respect that you have, the more care that you take in developing yourself as a lover, respecting your body, listening to your body, being open to its pleasures, is growth as a lover, as a soul. we are meant to have pleasure. If we were not meant to have pleasure, we would not have erogenous zones from the top of our head to the soles of our feet. That is not an error in design. The Creator made us this way. And we are the envy of the universe because we have sexual creativity and the desire to love one another sexually. So if you want to add a little bit of extra fun and sensations to your foreplay, please consider some of these sex toys. I'm telling you, they will add a whole new dimension to your lovemaking. So if there are no questions, I'm going to bid you adieu. Please visit my website at yourpleasure.com. It'll reroute you to a bigger site, Sensuality, Sexuality, Pleasure Advice. You'll see my shop there. Many of these products are there. And if you have a question, please post the question. It will be more than my pleasure to answer the question. You can find this on Facebook at Your Pleasure Incorporated, or you can find this on YouTube. I hope to see you guys again next week. Thank you so much for being part of this evening. Enjoy this video, share it with people you think could appreciate it, and please like it if it added value or knowledge or information to your sex life. Thank you so much for joining me. Namaste. Bye, everybody. And do your Kegels.